Om Sai Ram. Let us understand chapter number 35, the erasure of doubts and misapprehensions and the embellishment of Vibhuti. But before that, let us do the Namasmaran followed by chapter number 35, and we will conclude chapter number 35 with the Aarti. श्री सच्चिदानंद सद्गुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय। ओम श्री साई नाथाय नमः। 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 ओम साई राम। Chapter number 35, the erasure of doubts and misapprehensions and the embellishment of Vibhuti. I bow down to Shri Ganesh, I bow down to Shri Saraswati, I bow down to the Guru, I bow down to the family deity, I bow down to Shri Sita Ramachandra, I bow down to Shri Satguru Sai Nath. Previously, in the last chapter, I had indicated that the stories I will narrate, I will now enlarge upon them. Listen to it with respect and patience. Pride of secretarism is the greatest obstacle on the path of spirituality. There is no other danger greater than this pride. We are the worshippers of the formless. A deity with form creates confusion in the mind of the person. Sadhus and saints are human beings only. Why should we bow to them? We will not prostrate ourselves before them. We will not offer dakshina or alms. This would be a mockery of devotion. Many people spread numerous stories about Shirdi. We cannot believe all of them. Some said that when they for the went for darshan, Sai Baba asked for dakshina. If a sadhu amasses wealth, his saintly nature loses its quality. Some said that the blind faith is not good. One should decide whether getting a specific experience as to how one should behave. We will not offer dakshina. One who has the desire for money cannot be considered a holy person and is not worthy of respect. But we will go to Shirdi and return after meeting him. We will not bow at his feet, nor will we offer dakshina. All those who left their homes with these evil thoughts firmly decided to stick to their resolution. Ultimately, even they have surrendered to Sai, taking the darshan. Whoever came to Sai stayed on with him and never turned their back, getting attached to Sai's feet. Such a person who bowed at his feet in the same way, and those who have surrendered to him with full faith and humility, forgetting his earlier resolution. Where pride on account of secretarism is discarded, there we will get immense happiness. Such is the 35th chapter, which the listeners should hear with respect. Similarly, there is a suggestion about the importance of Udi and the experience of Bala Nevasekar with a snake and how he gave it loving treatment, considering it to be none else but Sai. Listeners, have mercy on me. I am only an obedient servant who knows to obey the instructions respectfully. In doing this, the Satcharithra has come into being word to word. As I gaze at his feet, waves of stanzas flows into my mind and I will fill the earthen pot of this holy biography on and off. When we are the young ones of the mother daughters who have nurtured merely by the glance and never left hungry or thirsty, but always keep contented, basking in the happiness of the glance, we need no food and water. The glance satisfies hunger and thirst. How can I describe that marvel? Sai Raya, the ocean of mercy, is the sole object of our sight. That which is seen, one that sees, and the acts of seeing, all these three are completely eliminated. Similarly, it is only the light of Sai which we feel our skin and to our touch. Sai's abode. It is the sense of smell. Or when one listens to any word, Sai's image immediately is evoked. That which is listened to, the listener, and the act of listening, all these three are completely eliminated. Or when the tongue savors any flavor, it is blended with Sai, where there is tongue, the flavor, or the experience of flavor. This is the pitiful threefold engima. If this is the state of all the senses and they serve only Sai, all the bad actions will be destroyed. And where and they will be freed from the fruits of the action. Enough now. This book will be lengthened on the account of love for Sai, whereby we are digressing. Let us recall the previous narration and continue with our story. A person who did not believe in worshipping in the form and was a staunch believer in the formless, decided to go to Shirdi out of sheer curiosity. He said, after coming to Shirdi, I will only take the sadhu's darshan. I will never bow down and take and offer dakshina. If you accept these two conditions, then I will come to you to Shirdi. When his friend agreed, he got ready to live happily with his friend. Kaka Mahajani was his friend who had pure devotion towards the saints. He yet he had a friend who was subject to doubts and skepticism. Both left Bombay on Saturday night and arrived at Shirdi on Sunday morning. Baba both went to the masjid for taking Sai's darshan. Listen peacefully to what had happened at that time. Looking at his friend from a distance as they were climbing on the steps, Baba spoke in a sweet voice. Oh, you have come. Welcome. He hearing this loving voice, the words of the friend realized that the manner of intonation of the words were like his father, of whom he was reminded. Oh, you have come, welcome. When Kaka's friend heard these words with which and the tone in which Baba spoke to them, he was surprised. Hearing the enticing tone and the manner of speech, he was reminded of his late father. This was the complete manner of his speaking. He felt it was an exact remembrance. How enticing was the power of the words. Kaka's friend was amazed and said to himself, these are my father's words, definitely. The tone is certainly recognizable. Hearing these tones as if spoken by his father, the friend was overcome with emotion. He bowed his head at Baba's feet, forgetting his earlier resolution. Later, Baba asked for Dakshina, but only from Kaka, which Kaka gave. They returned to their lodging and went again to the masjid in the afternoon. They were there together. As both were to return to Bombay, Kaka asked for permission, whereby asked for Dakshina, and that too only from Kaka. He said, give me 17 rupees, and asked for nothing from the friend, so he was internally disturbed. Then he asked Kaka softly, why does he ask for Dakshina only from you? In the morning, he had asked you only, and now also. He is asking from you only. Though I am with you, why does he omit me in respect of Dakshina? Kaka whispered the reply. Ask this of Baba only. At that moment, Baba spoke to Kaka. What is he saying to you? Then the friend himself spoke and asked Baba, may I give you Dakshina? Then Baba replied, you had no intention to give, so I did not ask it of you. If your desire to give, then do give. That friend had ridiculed the devotees who gave Dakshina when Baba asked. Therefore, Kaka was surprised that the same person was offering to give unasked. As soon as Baba said, give if you so desire, his friend hurriedly paid 17 rupees and placed them at his feet unasked. Then Baba said to him, where is the hurry? Sit for a moment. He then gave him valuable instruction to remove the difference between you and me. Pull down the oilmonger's wall between us totally so that the road is widened and enables us to meet each other. Then they were given the permission to leave. Seeing the cloud sky, Madhavrao feared, and the rain would make them wet. Baba replied to him, "Let them go free of worry. They need not fear the rain at all." On their way, bowing at Sai's feet, both of them took the carriage. They were a heavy fog, and lightning. The Godavari wasn't spared. The sky roared with thunder. Though they had take a ferry, Kaka had full faith, having been assured by Baba. But his friend was worried as to how the journey would be safe. He regretted that they left and felt that they would be in trouble on account on the way. Enough. They went forward safely. They entered the train and thereafter began to pour. They reached Bombay without fear. When they came home and opened the doors, one sparrow which was caught inside flew out. However, he found two dead. He felt very sad to see the sight. Oh Lord, they have lost their lives due to thirst and salvation. When I left for Shirdi, if I felt the window open, they would have not died. The poor creatures have died because of me. It was as if Baba was worried about the one who flew away now. Therefore, he happily granted the permission to leave today itself. Otherwise, it would have died also. How could it have survived without food? It remained safe while the other two met their lot as per destiny. Another experience of his is also worth listening to. He used to suffer from pain in the heel of one of his feet since months. Before going to Shirdi, he had suffered from the trouble for many months. After he returned from there, he was relieved from pain and it disappeared in a very short time. Similarly, there is another story where a person who goes in search of a saint has put his head down in obeisance at the feet, though he had no intention to do so. Listen to it. Also, when one does not wish to give dakshina because one is caught in the illusion of worldly objects, how one ends up giving dakshina despite one's firm resolve. Dharmasi Jetabai Thakkar, a solicitor from Bombay, wished to meet Sai because of some earlier merits. He was the employer of Mahajani. Both of them were on a intimate terms, but he felt like going to Shirdi and personally meeting him. Kaka Mahajani was the manager of Thakkarji's firm. Taking advantage of holidays on and off, Kaka used to get ready to go to Shirdi. Did Kaka return on time? He stayed some time at Shirdi for 8 days at that time and explained that he did not receive Sai's permission in return. Is this a way to work? What kind of a saint is he? He did not approve of this kind of profession of saintlessness. The Sheikh left during the holy days and to find out who the Sai was. His ego and pride in the profession and position was enormous. All the saints are human beings. Why should we bow to them? This was what he left. Kshatris and Pandits got exhausted and accepted defeat before Sai's authority. Therefore, what chance did poor Dharmarsi have here? And how far could he stick to his resolution? But it was not good to have blind faith. Let me go and ascertain for myself. With this determination, he made preparations to go to Shirdi. Dharmasi also laid down conditions described in the foreign verses as the other friend of Kaka. He left along with Kaka and told him, on the trip to Shirdi, will on this trip will not do for you to go to Shirdi and stay there. You must return with me. Know this for sure. Then Kaka replied, that is not in our hands. Therefore, Dharmasi took one more person with him to go on the way. In case Kaka did not return, it would feel difficult for him not to go and have a companion. So he took a third person, and all the three left for Shirdi. In the world, there are so many kind of persons who are obliging to devotees. Baba pulls them to Shirdi to remove their doubts, and when they returned, they narrated their experiences to others. They even got them written down by someone else so that people could take to the true path. In short, whoever went to Shirdi was filled with happiness and darshan, irrespective of their initial state of mind. They had supreme bliss towards the end. They said that their love for curiosity and therefore went on their own there, but in fact the position was different. They served Baba's purpose. Baba himself gave them the inspiration to step out. He puts them on the spiritual path by making them aware of their natural instincts. Who knows his skills and ways? If one tries, it will be inviting and misfortune. So, leaving aside your ego, prostrate at the feet and enjoy the feast of happiness. It is not good to go empty handed to the temple, Brahman or Guru. Therefore, Kaka brought 2 seers of grapes on the way. He had wanted to buy the seedless variety of grapes, but he could not only get the ones with seeds at that time. So Kaka rose. So be it. Chatting away happily, the trio arrived at Shirdi. All the three together went to the masjid for Baba's darshan. The devotee the devotee Bapu Sahib Tarkad, who was also present there, listening to what Sheikh Dharmasi said. I have heard miracles take place here. Then Tarkad replied to him, well, this is not a feeling, but the earnest intentions of devotees are satisfied here. Then Kaka placed his head on Baba's feet, offered grapes to Baba. The distribution began as there was a large congregation of people. Then, together with the others, Baba gave some to Dharmasi also, but he did not like the variety. He loved seedless ones. He had aversion to the kind of grapes. Thus, an obstacle arose right from the beginning. He did not feel like eating the grapes, but refused them also was difficult. Moreover, the doctor had prohibited him from eating them without washing them first. He did not feel it proper for himself alone to wash it. Innumerable doubts arose. Finally, he put them as they were in the mouth and after munching them slowly, separated the seeds and put them in his pocket. This was the holy abode of a saint, and he could not defile it. Then then the Sheikh thought, being a saint, how does he not know that I dislike grapes? Why was it forcibly given to me? Then Sheikh thought, no sooner than these thoughts had arisen, Baba gave him more of these, knowing that they were the variety which with seeds. He held them, and his hand not only did not put them in the mouth. It is true that he did not like grapes with seeds, but Baba had given them in his hands. Sheikh Dharmasi was disturbed and did not know what to do. He did not like the feel of putting them in his mouth. Therefore, he carefully held them in the fist. Then Baba said, go on, eat them. The Sheikh obeyed the instructions. Dharmasi then put it in his mouth when Baba said, eat them. But he found all of them were seedless. He was greatly wonderstruck when he found them all seedless. Dharmasi, being perplexed, thought to himself, strange powers, how is it impossible? What is impossible for these saints? Knowing my intentions and the grapes being with seeds and unwashed, whatever the one Sai gave, they were all seedless and good for me. He was amazed. He forgot all his doubts. His pride was dissolved. He developed great love for the saint. His earlier resolution disappeared. Love for Sai arose in his heart. The eagerness from which he came to Shirdi was vindicated without a doubt. Baba Tarkad was also there, sitting near Baba, but Sai gave him some grapes from the same lot. Then Dharmasi asked him, what kind of grapes did you get? And when Tarkat replied, they were with seeds. He was very much surprised by this. He believed that he was a saint, but but he also got an idea that but to get a confirmation, he thought if he was a real saint, then this time let the distribution begin with Kaka. Baba was distributing to many. But when this thought occurred to Shetji, Baba started to distribute from Kaka. The Sheth was greatly amazed. Such indications of the saint less such power to read the mind was sufficient for Dharmasi's mind to accept Sai as a saint. Madhavrao, who was there, then told Baba, "This is Kaka's master." By the way of explanation and introduction, how could he be Kaka's master? He has another master, was Baba's clear reply. Kaka appreciated this reply, and another surprised. There was a cook by the name of Appa who was standing near the Duni. Baba gave him the credit. He said, "This Shetji had not taken the trouble to come here for me. His love for Appa overflowed. Therefore, he had come to Shirdi." This way, the conversation ended. Dharmasi forgot his resolution on his own. He felt at Baba's feet. Then he returned to the Vada. So be it. The noon aarti was over. They prepared for their departure. The time had come for taking Baba's permission. So the group went back to the masjid. Then Dharmasi said to Kaka, "I will not ask for permission. You ask for it as you need it." Then Madhavrao remarked, cannot be sure of his departure. Unless a week is over, he will not be given permission. Why do you ask for yourself? Afterwards, the when the three of them reached and sat down, Madhavrao asked permission on their behalf. Baba began relating a story. Listen to it with a calm mind. There was a fickle-minded man. He was prosperous. He was free from physical and mental afflictions, but he took on him needless anxieties. He carried upon himself unnecessary burdens. He wandered hither and thither, and there was no peace of mind. Sometimes he dropped the burdens, and the other times he carried them again. His mind knew no steadiness. Seeing his state, I took pity on him and said, "Place your faith in Baba. Why do you unnecessarily roam like this? Stick quietly to one's place." This story touched a sore point of Dharmasi. He realized that there was an indication for him only. In spite of having adequate wealth and prosperity, and without having the slightest reason, Dharmasi was always worried and felt disturbed unnecessarily. He had enough money and honor, but he was not contented. He was burdened with deep imaginary problems and always got lost in them. Hearing this story from Sai, the Shethji was extremely surprised. "This is the state of my mind," he thought, and listened to it with great respect. It was a chance in a million for Kaka to get permission to leave early, but when he got that also, Dharmasi was very contented. It was Dharmasi's deep desire that Kaka should live with him. This was also fulfilled by Baba by giving him the consent to leave. How did Papa come to know that this was also one of the conditions of Shetji? Dharmasi strangely accepted it, and this was one of the characteristics of saintlessness. All doubts were removed, and it was very clear that Sai was a saint. Baba gave experiences which depended upon the one's thoughts. Whatever path one desires to take, he helped them on that very path. Sai is aware of the qualifications and worth of one, and accordingly, one attains spiritual progress. Irrespective of whether the devotee is full of faith or mocking, Sai is equally merciful to both. This loving mother did not differentiate between the two. Then, when both of them were about to leave, Baba asked for 15 rupees as dakshina from Kaka, and on his own said to Kaka, "If anyone had given me 1 rupee as dakshina, I will give 10 times more in return accurately. I never take anything from anyone gratis. I do not ask all and sundry. I only take dakshina from those to whom the fakir points out. The fakir asks from only those to whom he is indebted. The giver sows the seeds by giving, and the latter reaps harvest. Wealth should be used for righteous purposes only. If wealth is so spent, then only it is beneficial. By righteous true knowledge attained, This wealth, which was accumulated by hard labor, is sometimes believed to be utilized only for one's own pleasures. Instead of using wealth for righteous purposes, it is wasted. One who amasses wealth to the tune of crores of rupees by saving it pie after pie, he never spends the wealth for fulfillment of sensory pleasures. Such a person is happy. Even everyone is fully aware of the Shruti, which says that unless one gives, one does not receive. Unless you have given earlier, you do not get now. Therefore, Baba asked for Dakshina. During Ram Avatar, Raghunandan gave innumerable idols of women in gold to gain 16,000 wives. In the Krishna Avatar, a devotee is truly impoverished who does not have devotion, knowledge, and non attachment. Such a person is first taught and established in non-attachment and there then give devotion to knowledge. When Baba asked for Dakshina, it is a sign of non-attachment. Later on, by placing the devotee on the path of devotion, makes him reach excellence in attainment of knowledge. What do I do after all? Take one and give tenfold. Step by step, I will put on the path of knowledge, Baba said. This created an intense desire in Dharmasi. On his own, he placed 15 rupees in the Baba's hands, totally forgetting his earlier resolve. The whole incident was unparalleled. He felt that he had earlier been unnecessarily boastful. He felt glad that he has come personally, so he has learnt what saints are like and with experience got attached to him. If I had not made those resolutions, I will not have come to pay respect. That too, I came on my own. The saint's ways are inexplicable. How can anything be possible for him who has Allah Malik forever on his tongue? I am anxious to witness the miracle of a saint. My resolutions were in vain. I prostrated before a human and being and also gave him dakshina unasked on my own. In vain was my pride. On my own, I placed my head at Sai's feet with devotion. What more could be amazing? How can I describe the skill of a saint? Though he was an instrumental in doing all this, he outwardly remained uninvolved. What can be more surprising than this? Whether anyone bowed to him or not, whether anyone gave him dakshina or not, Sai, the cloud of mercy and the source of happiness, never treated anyone scornfully. He felt no pleasure because he was worshipped, and no pain because he was ridiculed. Where there is no pleasure or pain, his state was beyond duality. Whatever be anyone's intentions, where one granted darshan, he made the person develop devotion at his feet. Such was the marvelous power of Sai. Enough. Later, after receiving Udi Prasad and blessing, they returned without any doubts. Such was Sai's fame. To depart from Shirdi, it was necessary to have Baba's permission. To disobey it was to invite trouble. One felt repentant and humiliated if one left on account of own volition. There would be dreadful obstacles on the way which one would find it difficult to overcome. This was what was said about the departure from Shirdi. This was the same position with me. None can come here unless I bring him, was what Baba said. Unless I so desire, who can cross his threshold? Who will get darshan by his own volition or come to Shirdi? We can come for darshan only when mercy arises in the heart of Sai Samartha, the embodiment of mercy in whose hands rests our lives. If Sai was not inclined about the coming and going, he did not grant permission nor give Udi. If one went to ask for permission after bowing down was and was given blessings with the Udi, it signified permission to give leave. Now I shall narrate to the listeners a novel experience about the Udi, then about the power of devotion of Nivasakar because of the grace of Sai, the eminent one, a gentleman from Bandra, Prabhu Kashyap by caste, suffered from insomnia despite the best of efforts. The moment he was about to get sleep, within no time he departed. His departed father came in his dreams and awakened him from time to time, making a reference to whatever good or bad incidents that might have happened in the earlier life and the secret, evil, and far fetched thoughts. He used abusive language and bombarded him with that. Night after night, the same thing happened and lost his sleep. He was depressed. He could not avoid the suffering. The gentleman was fed up. He could think of no remedy. He consulted a Sai devotee if there was any relief. We do not know of any other remedy. Sai Maharaj is the eminent one. If you have faith in Udi, will show some power, he said. He implicitly followed the instructions that was given and experienced the power of Udi accordingly. He no longer had bad dreams. That friend was a devotee of Sai Samartha due to the merits of his past deeds. And after narrating to him the strange power of Udi, he gave him a little of it. He told him, when you go to sleep, apply a little on your forehead and put a small packet under the pillow. Think of Shri Sai, have faith, then experience this Udi's power. It will immediately put an end to the trouble. This was the merit of Udi. After he did as he was instructed, he got deep sleep that night. There was no trace of bad dream. The gentleman was very delighted. Then how could that joy of his being described? He kept a packet of Udi under his pillow always and remembered Sai daily. Later, he bought a picture of Baba and put it on the wall at the head of his bed and a garland on it every Thursday. He respectfully worshipped it. He began to take darshan of the picture, offered garlands on Thursday, remembered Sai daily. His troubles ceased altogether. He continued to have faith and carried out his practices strictly. He was abiding welfare. He totally forgot his earlier troubles of insomnia and bad dreams. This is one example of the effectiveness of Udi. I shall narrate another unique experience. If the Udi is used for any kind of problem, it will bring unalloyed well being. Balaji Patil Nevasakar was a great devotee. He rendered excellent and disinterested service and wore away his body for Baba. Nevsekar's regular task was to sweep all the passages and the streets of Shirdi through which Baba passed, his daily routine, including the round to the Lendi. The tradition of service was continued after him by Radha Krishna Mai. She was excellent in this work. By caste of Brahmin, respected all. She never is in her innocent heart had a wicked thought that this was a lowly task. Getting up early in the morning, taking the broom in her hand, she would sweep all the parts used by Baba. Blessed was her service. Her work was clean and quick. Who else would be able to compete with her? After some time, Abdul came forward. That Patil Nevasekar was very fortunate. Though he lived in this world, he was not attached to it. He was unselfish. Listened to that part of the story. After harvesting, he brought all the grains to the masjid and making a pile of it in an open space, he offered it at Baba. Firmly believed that Baba was the owner of everything. He lived on whatever Baba gave him out of it, taking that much only back home. Bala drank only the water that came from the channel after Maharaj had his bath or washed his feet. He continued these practices till death. Even today, his loving son carries out the same, with the same to some extent. He too sent grains regularly. From the Maharaj had Jowar Bhakri 4 times a day until his Mahanirvan. Enough. Observe what happened once. It was Bala's death anniversary. Food was cooked and ready, and the servants began to serve it. The food was cooked at home. and on the approximate basis of expected guests. But when serving the food, it was estimated the number of people was thrice the number than expected. Mrs. Nevasakar was worried. She began to whisper to her mother in law, "We are going to be disgraced today. How could it be avoided?" The mother in law had great faith. "When Sai Samartha is our support, why should we worry? You remain calm," he said. After the mother in law assured her thus, she took a handful of udi and put little in each of the food containers and then covered the containers with cloth. She said, "You can go and distribute it without care. Remove the cloth covering the partially only to enable you to distribute. Draw the cloth over it again. Remember to do without fail." This was the food from Sai's home. Not even a grain is ours. He alone will ensure that we are not put to shame. If this falls short, he will be given the responsibility. The mother in law got the experience just as she had resolved. Without difficulty, all the guests and others had the meal. Whoever had come ate. Everything happened as desired. Yet the food remained in the containers, which was full from the beginning to the end. Such is the power of Udi. It is the nature of saints to help one experiences as one has faith enough. While narrating the greatness of Udi, I am reminded of another story of Nevasakar regarding his immense faith. Listen to it. At one point, I had a doubt that it this would remain digression, whatever it may be. I felt like narrating it according to the circumstances. Resolving thus, I am relating the story at this juncture. If you consider it inappropriate, the listener should pardon me. Once Raghu Patil of Shirdi went to the guest to Nivasa and stopped over at Nevasakar's home. One night, when the cattle had been tied up with strong rope to the iron nail fixed in the ground, a poisonous snake entered the cowshed, hissing all of a sudden. Everyone was dumbfounded seeing such an incident. The snake spread out its foot and sat fully stretched out. The cattle began to low and clamor to get out. Nevasakar firmly believed that Sai himself had appeared there. Now there was no alternate but to let the cattle out in case they stepped on the snake and brought a calamity. When Nevasakar saw the snake from the distance, he was filled with joy and had horripilation all over the body. He prostrated with all his limbs. He said, "It is Sai's grace that he has come to meet in the form of a snake." He brought a cup of milk for the snake. He is wonderful. How wonderful was the sentiment of Balaji. He did not have an iota of fear. Observe what he said to the snake. Listeners, hear it alternatively. "Why, oh Baba, do not hiss and make noise. Do you want to frighten us? Now have the cup of milk and drink it peacefully." Now, thinking, how could a cup be enough? Thinking so, he bought a big vessel full of milk and put it before the snake without any fear. Fear is only in the mind. After putting the milk near the snake, he sat at his earlier place, which was neither far nor too near. His face showed wonder about the snake. The appearance of the snake is frightening. All do not think alike. Everyone else was perturbed and wondered how this danger could be averted. There was danger even if he stepped out lest the snake went into the inner part of the house because it would be more difficult to take him out. They all sat there and kept watching. Here the snake had its fill of milk. Without anyone noticing, it disappeared. Everyone was astonished. Then the whole cowshed was searched, but found no trace of it. Most of them were relieved, but Nevasakar was fretting. If it had been seen leaving as he had seen it at the beginning, entering the cowshed, he would have been satisfied. This was what was causing him to fret. Bala had two wives and young children. Sometimes they came from Nevasa for darshan. Baba brought saris and a blouse piece for both of them and gave them with blessings. Such was the devotee of Balaji. The path of Satcharita is simple. Whenever it is read, it becomes Dwarkamai, and Sai definitely appears there. There itself are the banks of Godavari. There itself is nearby pilgrimage of Shirdi, and there itself is Sai together with Duni, who removes all difficulties as soon as he is remembered. Where Sai Charita is regularly recited, Sai resides there always. If the Charita is repeatedly read with full faith, it pleases him in all respects. Remembering Sai, the cloud of self bliss, chanting his name daily, it is not necessary to practice any other means of prayer and penance or any other way of meditation. Having love of Sai's feet, all those who apply and ingest Sai's vibhuti regularly, they attain all they desire. They will be fulfilled by attaining all four goals of life, including righteousness. The deeper meaning of all this will be clear to them together with the worldly and spiritual matters. By the application of Udi, great sins, including the greatest and the lesser sins, are totally uprooted, and one is purified inwardly and outwardly. The devotees who are aware of this greatness of this use of vibhuti, but I have described all this in length for the benefit of the listeners. It is not proper to say that I have lengthened the description, because even I do not know the full extent of its greatness. Yet, for the benefit of the listeners, I have collected everything and described it. Therefore, this is my only prayer to the listeners. After paying obeisance at Sai's feet, experience the greatness of Udi for yourself. At least follow my words to this extent. There is no room for doubts and skepticism. One should have great devotion. A wavering mind is not required. One who should have supreme faith. Only the critics, the argumentative, and the doubters who have no faith and are unable to acquire the highest knowledge of saint. Only pure devotees can achieve that. Whatever is missing or additional in stories, believe that everything is inspired by Sai, and read the Sai Satcharithra without finding faults. In this way, Sai, the most compassionate and loving, has established his own image in the minds of interested readers so that they may always remember him. Where is Goa and where is Shirdi? Sai has openly narrated in detail the story of how theft had happened there, which will please the listeners in the next chapter. Therefore, Hemant places his head at Sai's feet with his heart and soul, and very humbly requests the listeners to listen to it daily and respectfully. May there be well being. This is the end of the 35th chapter of the Shri Sai Satcharithra, written by the devotee Hemant Pant, impelled by saints and virtuous people, called the erasure of doubts and misapprehensions and the embellishment of Vibhuti. This is offered to Shri Satguru Sainath. May there be auspiciousness. Om Sai Ram. Now let us do the Aarti. श्री सच्चिदानंद सतगुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय. शिर्डी माझे पंढरपूर साई बाबा रमावर, बाबा रमावर, साई बाबा रमावर, शुद्ध भक्ती चंद्रभागा भाव कुंडली जागा, कुंडली जागा, भाव कुंडली जागा, याऊ याऊ अवघे जन करा बाबा श्रीवंदन, साई श्रीवंदन, सन्नियर्म उद्यातनावा स्वभाव नरोमि अद्यं सकलन्तरस्मै नारायण इति समर्पयामि अच्युतं केशवं राम नारायणं कृष्णदामोदरं वासुदेवं हरे ईरवं माधवं गोपिकावल्लभं जानकीनायकं रामचन्द्रं हरे हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे हरे श्री गुरुदेव दत्त सच्चिदानंद सद्गुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय. Om Sai Ram. I urge all the listeners to read one chapter of the Sai Satcharithra daily and soak in Baba bliss. Baba bless you. Om Sai.